So we have been working on this little miniature backyard set. Last time we did the little lawn games. Today though, we're going to be doing the fire pit in the gardens. I saw someone do a fire pit by actually burning sticks, and I was like, that is a great idea. So that's what we're going to be working on. So here I am just setting up the stones for the fire pit, and then I went and grabbed a stick from outside. I'm just going to break it down into smaller pieces. I'm just trying to figure out how many I need, but then I went and burnt them. Not completely burnt, I just wanted them to have a cute little charred look. And I was kind of concerned that my neighbor was watching me out of her Ring camera and judging me for burning these little pieces of wood. Anyways, I got this cardstock from Joann Fabrics that looks like old newspaper, and I was like, this is absolutely perfect because then we can have little kindling for our fire. So I'm cutting up some of this, and I'm just going to fold it like a newspaper and have it stacked near the wood pile, because I thought that'd be like super cute and a little bit of like a realistic touch. And then I had this idea of like, oh my god, I should tear up small chunks of this and put it in the fire pit. So it looked like some of it had already been used to start the fire. So here I am just like cutting up small bits, and then I was like, these need to look like they were actually on fire at some point. So I'm just using some black paint to do little charred edges for this. This is turning out so cute. So this first one was a little heavy on the black, so the rest of them I'm trying to have more of like shading from like nothing to gray to black, so it looks a little bit more realistic of them getting burnt. And now we have to like scrunch them up a little because it wouldn't just be flat pieces of paper in this fire. Like when I build a fire, you have to like crumple up the newspaper. So we're going hyper realistic on my little miniature backyard. Okay, so now onto our actual fire pit. I'm painting the bottom of it this gray-black kind of blend, so it looks like there's actually ash at the bottom of it, like something had actually been burnt there before. This was actually surprisingly hard to like paint because it was just glued stone, so I had to use a lot more paint than expected to make sure everything was covered, but here's what it ended up looking like. So then I started adding in our little log pile because we don't want the fire to go out, so we need extra logs just in case. I wanted a little bit of a messy look to the stack, but then it just became too hard to actually stack these logs, so I was like, whatever. Like, if it's not perfectly messy, that's fine. And here I am just adding the little kindling too. So while we're waiting for that to dry, our little charred wood has finished cooling down. I'm just going to coat it with some matte Mod Podge just to seal everything in. As you can see, as I brush this down, a lot of the ash and like smut is getting off on the paper towels and on my brush. So I'm very happy that I decided to like seal it. Okay, now I'm starting to add the kindling to our little fire pit. Like, look how good these look. I am so happy with how they turned out. And now we can start doing the logs. So I probably didn't do this right because I wanted to have enough glue where they would stick, but then they started sticking to each other when I was trying to like readjust them. And they kind of just were not wanting to participate when they started sticking to each other. So eventually I got them in the right spot. And here is what it turned out like. It is so freaking cute. I am so happy. I need to make them like a little s'mores kit or something. Now we need to get started on the gardens because I have just been procrastinating doing these gardens. Like, I wanted to do them, I was excited to do them, but like the thought of actually doing them it was making me nervous because I really wanted it to turn out well. So here I am just doing a base coat on the gardens, getting this brown paint to stick to the foam. I don't know what I was thinking. Of course the foam wasn't going to absorb it, so pretty much I'm just using it as a stain on top. But now we're going to get started on the florals. So I got all of these picks from Michael's. They were having like a 60% off sale, and I found these and I'm like, these are going to be absolutely perfect to use for the garden. So I'm just cutting up little chunks of it to break it down into smaller plants. So my plan is to have a few taller plants and then just like a lot of like ground coverage. So here I am cutting up the few that I'm going to be using as the tall ones. So I had this idea of like I wanted to have mulch in the gardens, but I just couldn't figure out like what I was going to use as mulch. And then I was like, you know what, let me just like cut up some of these leaves into smaller chunks and we can use that as mulch. So here's what it's looking like now. And then I also grabbed a few of these guys, which I feel like would be cute, like taller flowers. And a lot of this is all green, so I did want to add some color, and I'd really like the look of these guys, so I wanted to add a few to the garden as well. Okay, so here's what they're going to look like. To get them to actually stay upright, I'm cutting a small hole into the foam, which I'm going to shove the stem through so it actually holds it in place. Like, look how cute this is. Then once I found a placement I liked, I wanted to glue them in just to make sure it was like really secure. And I'm apologizing in advance because this back corner garden, while cute, is really hard to get these stems into. So this is just a terrible angle. Like you're just gonna be staring at my hand for a while, but I did want to give you guys a look at like how I'm adding them in. So these like really tall, skinny ones are where I chopped the leaves off to make the mulch. And I was like, these kind of do look cute and they add a little bit of height to this back garden. So we're adding them in, and then a few of the shorter ones, a couple of the flowering ones. So it's not looking great right now, but that's fine because we are going to be adding the mulch in just a second. So for the mulch, I'm just adding this brown paint to it to give it an actual like brown look. And I'm also going to be adding in some Mod Podge to make sure it sticks to the ground. So looking back at this now, this was definitely not the best way to do this because as I was trying to spread out the mulch, it was just one giant clump and it didn't really spread very well. If I had thought about this better, I would have like painted the like mulch brown, let it dry a little, like spread out, and then sprayed the stickiness onto the ground covering and then like shook the mulch on. That is how I'm thinking it would have played out. I don't know if that would have worked either, but yeah, this way was definitely not the most optimal way. And also as I was going through this, I realized that there was not enough mulch, so I did add a little bit more. I didn't want to add too much until we added the rest of the plants. So for the shorter plants, I didn't want them to be the same color as the taller ones because I wanted a little bit more variety. So I'm going to be painting them this dark green color just to like add a little bit of variety to the gardens. And here they are next to the original color. It's like not a crazy difference, but it is like a little bit of a difference. Now I'm going to start adding these guys in, just filling in some of this blank space between the taller plants. And for a few of these, I added in these florals just to add a little bit of color. Then I was like, hey, this is a lot of like just pink and white. Maybe I should add more colors. So I tried to like stain one of these purple, and when I put it in the garden, yeah, you can't even really tell it's purple. So I probably should have went for like a yellow or an orange instead, but you live and you learn. So this is what our little garden is looking like. I'm adding a little bit more coverage with the mulch, but I think it actually turned out super freaking cute, especially once we added in all the games and our little Slugly family. Like, I was so nervous on how this was going to turn out, and this actually turned out like pretty well. Now I just gotta figure out what else we want to add to our little backyard. If you guys have any ideas, definitely let me know, and I will see you guys next time.